Hello, everyone. Travis Rudros Pfeiffer here with another post-tournament report with a very special guest, a man I'm lucky enough to have met in person. Just such a charming fellow, whether he's beating my ass on RVA weeklies or, crushing tournaments like he did this past weekend. It is Mr. Emmanuel Onate. Emmanuel, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Travis. How are you?
Good, good. I hope did I say your name correctly?
Pretty close. So it's Onate.
Onate.
Pretty just
Okay.
yep, easy
Emmanuel
enough.
Onate. I always want to,
Yeah,
someone wanted to accent on the E. So,
yeah.
for those of you who don't know, in the FFTCG world, we had the Texas Materia Cup this past weekend, which my friend here did a great job in and burying the lead, but hopefully you've already seen it anyway. Made it all the way to second place, secured his Nationals invite, because you didn't have it before this weekend, right?
I did not. It was a slow start to the season for me, so I was getting a slight bit concerned. But
Excellent.
we got there.
Well,
So,
it was a huge weekend for you then. So of course, congratulations. Very happy for you.
thank you.
You went to Nats back in 2019 last time they had it, didn't you?
I did. I was actually fortunate enough to. I guess I'm always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But I got second in Arizona at my first big performance, and I got my tickets to Worlds that year. But I guess that automatically came with a ticket to Nats.
Nice.
So that was a really cool experience for my first time, kind of doing well with this game after I'd started playing. So yeah, I was there. I was there last year. It was fun. It was a good time.
Awesome. Yeah, well, major congratulations. So let's just jump right into the fun of it. So you brought, let me switch over to the deck list here. Ta-da! It's no surprise. It's mono water. Tried and true, very proven, especially since Opus 18 with the Lena Leviathan. I know, and your title there is very funny. Please qualify so I can play Leo. I kind of suspected that because I was casting the stream, and the few times I got to see on stream, I was like, well, I wonder if he's playing Leo. And like I could see a few water cards while you're shuffling. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's his Leo deck. You went with normal mono water. There's a lot of powerful stuff right now, whether it's water or ice wind or ice earth, Warrior of Light, Rydia, all that jazz. Why did you pick mono water?
Yeah, no, I I definitely want to go back to the boy. Leo's the deck I have the most fun with, but we'll get to that later. Mono Water was just kind of um, a choice that I made with the help of a few people, just because I wanted to earn that qualification, like the title says. And I am very attached to the decks that I build and that I refine over and over. But there's a certain point you have to accept, like, it's just not the right metaphor. It's not the right time. So with that in mind, it's not a deck that I'm, super thrilled about or anything, but I will say it was a lot more interesting and fun to play than I gave it credit for.
Yeah.
As Oki, he was the one that really kind of helped me through kind of making this decision in the end. And we talked about it a lot. And, he did say that I might find it boring because there's not really anything flashy that the deck does, because I love combo decks and things like that. But it definitely has a lot more layers than maybe people who don't play it like I had it give it credit for, because it just looked pretty kind of boring to me, and it really wasn't. So the deck is obviously really strong. The field was, I think, 50% water. So choice kind of came about as a just, hey, these are the best decks. Which one of these do I actually feel the most comfortable running?
Right.
And I mean, make no mistake, it runs very differently from Leo, even the mono water version. But some of the cards are the same, so a little bit of familiarity works there. And the final reason was I talked to one of my locals, actually Patrick, and when I was trying to pick a meta deck to play. And he recalled the Fire Lightning that I was really attached to, that I played, I think over COVID, with a lot of summons and stuff like that, Fire Lightning, Odin summons. And he said that water was probably the most similar to that, even though it was, completely different element, just because of the, high quantity of summons and how it's a little bit reactive, and you're just on your game plan, and then you sit on your summons and do your thing. So all those things kind of came together. I'm glad they did. Made a couple of choices to change to the cards, but overall, not much changed from the list that KP, Oki, and a few other people ran at the
San Diego, yeah.
San Diego Materia Cup. Yeah. I think Lopez was actually another person. He ran the exact same 50,
Yeah.
so they all did very well on it.
Well, so
And
speaking of that, mono water's again pretty well established. So I won't go over a lot of the obviously the core stuff, the Ash, the Leviathan, the Lena. I guess I'll just ask about some of the choices maybe you don't see as much. So like Octomammoth, don't see that in a lot of them. What made you pick him?
yeah, so the night before, I was between several different cards. The main one was Kadaj, which actually I ended up seeing in KP's list, and he said it performed well for him. I was on the same boat, except that you know how it goes. Last night testing,
Yeah.
I tested against 13 in the house, and every time I saw the Kadaj, I was just, oh my god, can this be anything else?
Yeah.
And I didn't know there wasn't going to be much 13 at this event, but you have to always be prepared for it. So that ultimately made me cut the Kadaj, and I cut something else I don't remember, but I was left with two basically empty slots, and I was so torn on what to put in there. And I talked to Kyle McGinty a little bit and suggested a couple of cards, and Octomammoth was actually his idea. So, thanks to him for that. It wasn't really on my list. I mean, I'd seen the card and I was like, but it wasn't one of the ones I had in consideration for replacement of that Kadaj, and the other card that I replaced. But I was like, hey, it's not a dark card. It's a monster, and it balances two things. And I was just losing to 13, which the matchup isn't bad, to be honest. I was just maybe on a bad streak, but
Yeah.
I was like, hey, it bounces two forwards. It gives me a little bit more time to breathe. And to me, what I actually ended up liking about it in the tournament was it was a pseudo Leviathan at times to just finish the game.
Yeah.
Because you have Tross on the field, right? And you're going to get the draws. You're going to be able to do the bounces. And if Levy's already on the board, then it's just disgusting. You bounce 2 and minus 9-2 just off a 3, and it's got an 8K body. I mean, it checked the boxes for me. And I do not regret putting it in the list. I really actually like that card.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that card quite a bit too. I was a big fan of it back in Opus 14, but just again, you didn't see it much. Man, it really makes me wonder what this entire meta season would have looked like if nothing else changed, but just 13 didn't exist. Because I've heard so many players, like, I've had to make decisions just based on the idea that I could run into 13. And funny too that you said you had trouble, because normally water is one of the better decks to deal with it, with things like Kuchulain and all the bounce. Like, you tend to have a bit more against it than some other decks do. So that's kind of funny that it influenced you that much.
God, yeah, I mean, it is. It's not a terrible matchup. I think, like I said, I was just on a really bad run the night before, and I did win a couple games, but the games that I was losing, I was drawing the Kadaj, so it kind of like took me off of the card. And just having a dark card, they're obviously powerful. That's why they're light and dark, but like it's a sacrifice to make. It does make things a little more awkward, and because I've never played mono water I've never played mono water, so it was kind of like. Let's make this as easy as possible for me so that I don't make any mistakes with cards that require a little more planning, like Kadaj does.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, the one other one I want to ask about too then that kind of stands out to me is the Bismarck. Man, I love that card back in the day, like the Opus 5 to 8 mono water days. It was such a great combat trick that if you had Yoon out for 1, you just cut something's power in half. Of course, I think we saw you do it on stream where it bounced a monster. If I'm not, I feel like I remember seeing that. We
bounced a monster.
What was the most like common mode for you to use that, or like why the Bismarck?
The Bismarck actually took the place of the double bounce Leviathan that the boys had in the list, which I love that card too, and it it's got a nice little EX burst on there, so that was a sacrifice. But like you mentioned, playing it for 1 felt really good all day. You don't have a lot of cards that you can just play for 1, other than like the Poo-Poo and the Kuchulain. Most of them are 3s that go to 2, but that's a 2 that goes to 1. So it feels fine if you have to just cast it. It's 2, from hand if you don't have any backups to tap. But if you do have the open backups, it's really cool to play it for 1.
Yeah.
The mode that I use the most, I'd say it was the bounce, whether it was the bounce my own or bounce an opponent's monster. I played it because I saw a lot of Alexander in my testing, and I wanted to maybe save some of my monsters. So, they Alexander, I Bismarck my monster back to hand. Um, so, they don't get the draw and I get to play my monster again, basically. That inspired putting it in there. And then the other modes were just, I didn't get to use actually the power reduction. There was times I could have, I guess, but because I didn't play 13 all weekend, there wasn't really a time to use that. I was kind of thinking, they swing in with the lightning. We have a blocker out there. I think even a 7K will do it.
Yeah.
Lightning goes to maybe 8 or 9 and you have her and just chump. And you feel good doing it if you're doing it for one, right? Yeah. And just kind of getting rid of a threat. So the bounce was definitely the most powerful, and it definitely helps against the mirror. They have a ton of monsters. I have a ton of monsters. Let's bounce yours, make you play it again. So I really like the card. I don't think I'd put it to 2 just because there's just no room. It's just the nature of the deck, but I loved it at 1, and we've got recursion for it. So
always slots these days over anything else. Well, and so this will kind of be my ending question for your deck. Is there anything you would change based on this day, or are you like, nope, I'm pretty satisfied with these 50?
I really liked it. I mean, the other card that I can't remember off the top of my head whatever. Oh yeah, I took out one of the EX forums, the 2-drop for an Alphino. And that was something that Viridian was doing some testing actually on Mono Water the night before too, and he kind of was just in passing was kind of like, I kind of want Alphino in here, because of all the monster hate.
Yeah.
Just to replace a monster slot maybe with a forward or something. I ended up replacing a forward with a forward, but either way, I thought about it and I really like the card in general because I've played it in my Leo deck and my fun decks. I made like a Leo Scions deck brewing with Dylan Macho, and the deck and the card always was so impressive to me. And I was just like, I love cycling. I love, and then the cherry on top is obviously the damage 5 effect.
Right.
And in my head, it was basically there's never a way I put 3 Lenas in the deck, but a lot of times I just draw her early. And she's got to go, or something happens, or she goes into damage. And I was just like, well, what if I had a 3rd Lena, but also the option for it to be something else?
Yeah.
And it actually came up a lot. People put me to 5, probably just not expecting Alphino to be in the deck.
Right.
Yeah, and it got some good stuff. There was a time I just spun up the cancel Porum because that was just the right thing there. So. 4 or less is good enough, especially like I said, because I can just spin up Lena into Leviathan and she's already gone.
Right.
They think both the Lenas are gone. Alphino comes down. Well, here's Lena again.
Yeah. No, I like it as a choice too, and I think we saw this on stream that even like if you have a bad start, you didn't see anything backups or Sildra. Hey, Alphino at least digs you 2 cards deeper into the deck, so gets you closer to that point. So I really like that choice.
Yeah, 2 cards, and then you get to fill up the break zone just a little bit faster. You dump 1, so that's another one for Lena if you see her later. That was the other reason, and he actually Alphino was actually so much more helpful than I thought in an aggro game plan, which I'll go into later. My last 3 matches, I think in top, I just completely changed the way that I played because I had to, and I just went full aggro mode. I would see backups and I would just pitch them, and I would just be like, this is how we're winning the game because there were bad matchups sometimes where I would have a weird start. Yeah. So the card couldn't work.
Absolutely. Was there anything else you wanted to mention about your deck, or should we move on to your day?
No. Excellent. No, I don't think I'd change much right now. Again, I'm not a Mono Water player, so maybe someone smarter than I at the deck would, but not me.
All right, let me put us back on us. There we are. We're back on camera. And, all right, well, let's start with your day. There was 7 rounds of Swiss, if I remember correctly. So round 1, who did you face, or what deck did you face?
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me. My memory is actually really bad when it comes to just about everything, which is why I
it's okay.
struggle at card
whatever you can.
I don't remember many of the names, but I know I did play a lightning deck round 1.
Like he was mono playing, lightning, or like the character?
No, I think he had earth lightning, if I recall correctly. But it wasn't the I don't recall it being like the Chaos Arc, or maybe he just couldn't play it because it's awkward against water.
Yeah.
But I don't think so, because he was playing cards like Raiden, the 1-drop. So he was playing the Primal Ramu.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I hadn't seen that card in a while, so I had to pick it up. He played it like turn 2, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And surprisingly, it was actually kind of a weird, I wouldn't say like a, terrible matchup, but it was more difficult than I expected, just because Mono Water doesn't have a ton of forwards, so
Yeah.
and I wasn't seeing my monsters early, so just his ability to just kind of wipe my board with, just having the Ramu plus the whatever damage spell, pinging all my forwards for 1k, but then just they all die.
Yeah.
Was tough because one of my main forwards is Titus, and usually is really hard to get around, but that's not very hard to do when you can just AOE ping and then he dies. And I wasn't really seeing my bounce spells at the right time to just interrupt that or anything. So he played well. I got down to about 4 cards in deck, but we finally got there on the back of the Old Faithful, Land of Leviathan stuff. But
the old free 9 cost always comes through in the
end. Yeah, it worked out. But I was dangerously close to decking out because he just kept wiping my board.
Yeah, that's fair.
So fair play to him.
So you're 1-0. You move on to round 2. What'd you face here?
Round 2, I played a Earth, Water, Chaos Arc build.
Okay.
Which he opened up, and I was like, oh, this is surely a mirror, because I didn't see any of the Earth cards. Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. Mirror second match into my day. And then he played Earth cards, and I was like, oh, I guess this is not what I thought.
Yeah.
And it was a bad matchup for him, for sure. Mm-hmm. The Earth Lightning is definitely harder for me to deal with. The Earth Water is just kind of, the Arc Chaos is pretty dead, just like it is in any other deck against Mono Water. So I have to struggle to play it. And the Une, he smashed a couple Unes early, which set me back. But it was just like, okay, well, we're just going to replay the Una and then bounce it and make you play it again, or. Mm-hmm. I have the lightnings too. I think I ended up just playing the lightning and removing it. So removal isn't hard when, they're spamming a couple forwards and I'm on 0. So, lightning puts in work. So yeah, that was a bad matchup for him. Good player. He actually saw him later in the rounds, and I think he was at table 1 in round 7. So I think that was his only loss.
Nice.
Yeah. So, he said it was his first tournament too. And so I was really, I always love hearing, that, hey, it's my first tournament. And they do well. I mean, that's encouraging for any player, right? And we want this community to grow.
It's my first tournament, and you're all on notice. That's awesome, man. So
yeah, he did very well.
2-0. You can't ask for a better start to the day than that. You move into your third round.
Yeah.
Now what are you facing?
Yeah, the third round is one I'd rather forget. But I played everybody's favorite green man, Viridian. So we're on table 1, and.
So he was on Ice Earth.
I was like, oh, he's on Ice Earth. Yeah. Terrible, abysmal matchup for me. And I think I let it get to my head a little bit too much, just knowing how bad the matchup is, because it's not impossible. I mean, there's worse matchups. That's just the finals.
We'll get to that one. But I thought that too. Like, I mean, it can be tough, but that one seems like it really is just dependent on how the game goes. How quickly can he start trying to lock down your resources? But please continue.
Yeah, it is winnable. Give it maybe 10 to 20%, maybe higher for someone who's more experienced with Mono Water. But Viridian is just a great player, and he's been playing the deck forever. So, you add a bad matchup on top of someone who pilots it.
Yeah.
Close to perfect.
Is one of those few decks, too, that has monster hate, so you don't have that reliable, hey, they'll just sit here forever and never be touched.
Yeah, it does. And he's also got the Arcanus, right? So if I activate my Blue Worm, it's just going to say 2, and then it's just going to die. And, kind of sucks. So, but either way, I think I let the bad matchup get to my head, and I misplayed like crazy. Not that I think any of those misplays would have won me the game. I still think it would have been bad, but it was my third game of the day. And like I said, I have put in a lot of time practicing, but I hadn't played Water. I've never played a Mono Water deck, so there were things that I was still kind of figuring out as the tournament went on. And I would see the mistake immediately after doing it, but too late. So he made quick work of me, and I was a little upset at myself, honestly. And I told him, I was like, man, I can't play like this. If this is how I pilot the deck, there's no way I'm gonna make it. So I took the time to just kind of cool off a little bit and go over what I did wrong, even if it was a bad matchup. My plays could have improved.
Yeah.
So I think I'm really, in retrospect, glad that it happened there. And like he actually said, he's like, well, it sucks, but this is the match to misplay in. Like, you're playing against a matchup that's almost impossible anyway. And I took that to heart, and shaped up after that.
Yeah, that's good advice. Like you'd hate to have a match that, I got this 100, 90 to 10, and, and then you mess that up. It's like you said, it was a very tough uphill climb anyway. So yeah, that's pretty good advice. Of all the times to misplay, that's when you want to do it.
Yeah, agreed.
So you might be thinking of that tasty lunch, but you got one more match to get through before that point. This is round 4.
Yeah.
What'd you move on to after that?
God, round 4. What did I play? Did we have lunch? I'm trying to work out my day after lunch.
You're good.
I don't know if we had lunch after round 3.
I think for this tournament it was after round 4. Because it was different than most. Most tournaments do it after round 3. So
yeah. I'll have to maybe come back to it later. I really don't remember what I played against round 4.
I got you.
Yeah, we got there. Oh, I remember. It was a wall deck.
Okay. Just like standard Warrior Light, good cards kind of thing.
Standard Warrior Light stuff. I think he was a little more heavy Tribal Warrior Light, if I remember.
Okay.
He was running a lot of the actual Warrior Light cards. I think he still had the Onate and stuff in there, but yeah, it was actually, now I think about it, it was a hard fought matchup. We got there in the end. He just, I don't think he saw Mist Dragon early enough. If I remember, I was just able to do a pretty early Lena Leviathan turn and just, keep being annoying and bouncing his back up so he couldn't be on his colors. And even when he did finally get on his colors, I just had removal for the right things. So yeah, I do think that matchup is a little bit favored for Water, even if it's not huge. I think it's about a 60-40 in my opinion after playing it a few times. Now given that he wasn't teched for Water like a lot of the other World lists that I saw and even played against in top, those were definitely not 60-40s for me. But that particular build I think was. But he played it well. Nothing that I saw that he misplayed or anything. He just I drew better and the matchup didn't really go his way. So that was yep.
So you're 3-1, you go off to lunch, you gotta be feeling pretty good. Like, all right, I only lost to Ryan, like he's probably gonna do pretty well, so that'll be good for my breakers. Would you your lunch I guess doesn't technically matter to the card game, but tell me what you had for lunch if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we had this I think it was a God, what was it? It wasn't Chinese food, it was something else. It was an Asian food, but it was really good.
Oh, okay.
And it actually was awesome. I had like a soup or something that was just pretty amazing. And I liked it. It was good. It was light. I have a huge flies that I love to eat, and every tournament I just stuff my face at lunch because I do it all the time. Gotcha. That's what I like to do. I like to eat. And so it took a lot, but I was just like, you know what, I'm going to get something light, something easy. Then there was amazing looking fried stuff on the menu, but I was like, you don't
want to have indigestion all day.
I don't want to go to sleep. I get put in food comas really, really easily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I get real sleepy. So, and to add to the fact that I had about an hour of sleep the night before, I was just like, I can't do this to myself. So I opted for something somewhat light and healthy, and it paid off.
Man, a lot of sleep deprived people at these tournaments, and I get it. I've been there. I know the feeling. So I think normal. It was round 5. You briefly sat down on the stream table, and I thought we were going to see you, but then I don't know if you got repaired or you just moved over, but I was like, oh, it's man, we might get to see the Leo deck, because I thought you were still in Leo, and then so who did you face in round 5?
Yeah, it was Amethyst, and we didn't get repaired. We just got taken off stream. There was some issues with the stream and people, and I don't know the exact details of it, so I won't speak on it too much. It was just
let me guess. Was she playing ninjas?
She was on ninjas. So we'll get more actually to the match. We just got moved over to a different table, and I'll let her get into that if she speaks about it. But
sure.
We were both more comfortable with just playing off stream.
Okay.
So we did, and believe me, she knows this. I was terrified just because I played her in Florida, and she was on that ninja deck, and I was on Soiree, and she whooped my ass. I mean, it was it was bad. I definitely misplayed a bit just because one of the advantages for her as well is running a deck that most people don't have any practice against.
Yeah. Not many people are counting on facing ninjas.
No, and she plays it really well. I mean, it's her brew, right? So I was going to the match psychologically. I was like, she's got the edge because I know I've lost this. I don't know what I'm really doing. But luckily for me, Water has more tools that deal with it efficiently.
Yeah.
More than Soiree. I mean, Soiree's got its tools, of course, but being able to bounce stuff, because she's got a lot of hasty stuff that just kind of sneaks in the win out of nowhere.
And similar to like going against 13 in the Lightning, you have a lot of tools to deal with the Yuffie before it can become untargetable. You can be like, hold on, boop, or blanket or whatever.
Exactly. So. That was what made me feel better about it, because I talked to a couple people before the match, because I got announced pretty early, and I was like, what do I do against ninjas? Like this is going to be a rough one. And so we just came to the conclusion, I just treat it like it's 13 almost. And it kind of ends up playing like that, right? It's very fast. So I did. I treated it kind of like it was 13. I think I played it just like a clean matchup, and it went my way. Because I just kept removing her stuff, and it was kind of tough to rebuild. She didn't see the Fire Winds in early, which I think would have done a lot of damage if it, snuck a Sildra out of my hand or something. I guess I just cast it before she targets it, but still, I mean, snagging whatever card I just searched.
She'll get whatever. She's getting something.
Yeah, come to think of it, that's a terrible play. That's the play I make against like Kate Civ. But yeah, she snags like a Sildra early or something, or even just removal, right? If she snags the Lightning out of my hand or something, I'm in trouble. So I got a bit lucky. She didn't see that early. And ninjas are as scary as ever. But I had a lot of the summons and stuff.
Yeah.
So it worked out. And actually, that was one of the games. I think I played the Octomammoth in that game. I don't exactly remember, but I remember drawing it, and I was like, okay, I feel really safe now, because even if she smashes 3 forwards, I'm like, okay, well, 2 of them are going to go back, and then I have a block. So a lot of security from that card.
Nice. So that would put you at 4-1, and
4-1, yeah,
not quite guaranteed yet. I think we knew that like mathematically the 5 2s are going to be guaranteed, but 4 3s would still. So obviously you need at least one more to guarantee. So you move on to your 6th match of the day. What did you face in your 6th round?
Yeah, in my 6th round, trying to think here. It's after Ninjas. I don't remember.
He was like, it was so easy and so quick. I couldn't even tell you.
I ended up getting the dub. I actually don't remember. Yeah, this one I actually can't like piece it together.
Ice Lightning, I think it was Water Mirror, Warrior of Light.
No, I know I didn't play a Water Mirror until the last round, so it wasn't that.
Soiree 13. You said you didn't play 13. Was it a win matchup?
I didn't play any 13.
Samurais, Dragoons.
No. I think it must have been it might have either been another Chaos Arc type of thing, or a oh, yes, that's exactly what it was. So I actually played, I believe, a Earth Lightning Chaos Arc.
Oh, okay.
Hard matchup. Harder than I gave it credit for, because I was just like, oh, it's got Chaos Arc. I'm good. I'm on mono.
I'm mono water. What do I care?
Yeah. And he's a good player. So he, it was actually a game where it went to the wire. I think I was at 6 and he was at 6. And we both misplayed at the end of the game. I think I had a chance to do lethal or something, and I didn't see it. And then on his turn, he had a chance to lethal, and I still played the best that I could. But I guess if he took a slightly different line, I wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. So the line that he picked, I was able to, I think, bounce something, and I had a Tross left, so I was able to, I think, bounce his forward. Terrible memory, so that may have not even been it. But I just remember that we both acknowledged that we basically both misplayed, and it just ended up going my way because I misplayed first, he misplayed second, and then I just had lethal.
Yeah.
But also, I was running out of cards. I mean, that deck just wears you down. It's just removal. Timely Chaos Arc, even if they've got to pay a lot for it. I mean, Arc doesn't feel good if you don't have the bounce, right?
But even just something the break zone hate, like an X-Death or a Mist Dragon, that, some of these decks, they don't run any hate, so you have this guarantee of, I'll get to that eventually. But others are like, no, I'm coming for it. I'm not going to let you do that so easily.
Yeah, his X-Death, that you mentioned, it put in work. That card is super, super annoying to deal with. I mean, I can get rid of it right after it hits the board, but if it's a late X death, I'm having to remove something because he's surely going to have 20. And if I don't have the removal right away, it just starts eating at my board.
I know you don't think of yourself as like a proficient mono water player because you haven't been playing it as long. When you know your opponent has break zone removal, do you pitch your cards differently, or do you kind of just, I just got to like push through it, or?
It really depends how it starts, I guess. If I'm getting close to Lena numbers, and this was something that Oki kind of coached me on, was if you're at like 9 and you suspect the X-Step is going to come down, just slam the Lena without, usually you wait for Lena just to make sure it's guaranteed. You play her not until you have 12 in the break zone. But in these kind of matchups, you have to kind of train yourself to say, okay, well, I haven't seen an X-Death yet. I'm on like 9, 10 cards. I'm not going to be able to Lena this turn, but I may as well try to protect the break zone.
Yeah.
If they kill the Lena, well, whatever. They have to kill it and then remove my break zone, right? So maybe it delays them another turn. Maybe you draw another Lena or something. And I didn't do that game. So I just blanked, and I was just like, oh, I've got this Lena. Surely I get it off next turn. And, of course, X-Death comes down and says no. So you do change your game plan a little bit. And after they've X-Death a couple times, you kind of abandon the Lena game plan. You just say, well, I'm going to win with my other tools. It is nice that X-Death only hits forwards, but, I mean, he's Earth Lightning, so Mist Dragon's there. So it's not going to matter. Everything's going to go. So in those matchups, I would say, just in the kind of practice that I had and advice that I've been given, it's just either, slam the Lena and know that it's coming, or just abandon the game plan, don't commit too much to it, and just play your game with all the other good stuff you have. So
yeah, it's good advice, Oki. Keep coaching this guy. I like that. So you win. So now you would have been, what, 5-1 after 6 rounds. So you've got 1, so you're guaranteed top cut. I'm assuming you knew that. Surely that took some pressure off of you too. Okay, we did it. We got there. It kind of doesn't matter what happens for this last. Of course, you still want to do well, because the higher you seed, the better you get to go first in your top cut matches if you so desire. So your final round of the day, your Swiss, who'd you face? What'd you take on?
Yeah. So you're right. Pressure came off a little bit. And the other thing with water is that going second isn't catastrophic like it is with other decks, but you're still, you still want that high seed. Why not? It's a little sketch. I'm not going to lie, with top 32. A lot of people we're talking about it, and it's just kind of like, you don't know, like, you could get punished for getting a high seed because you may just play something out of left field in the first round up top, because, the 28th, 29th, 30th seed may be playing something way out of normal and just kind of sneaks in there, and you get screwed. So I still, you think about it, but it's just, there's nothing you could do. So, you play to win every game. And my round 1 matchup didn't end up being anything rogue. It was a very respectable Ice Lightning. So that didn't happen. It was a good matchup for me, but I'm glad that I won, because it cued me into a matchup that I was favored in.
Yeah.
Of course, unfortunately for my opponent, but fortunately for me. And so, round 6, I don't remember his name. I know he's quite good. He was playing against KP in round 2 or 3. I think I was observing their match, and they had played the mirror. So I knew he was on water. And I was like, oh, here we go. This is my first mirror of the day.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, my first one, I mean, with half the field being mono water.
Yeah.
And I was kind of dreading it, because I'll be honest, I don't have any practice against the mirror. I think in all the practice I had in the last 2 weeks, I never played the mirror once. So I was just kind of like, well, let's see how it goes. Now, of course, we strategized. We talked about, what the strategy was, should I face the mirror, but I hadn't had any reps. I ended up going first, and just kind of started kind of normally, but I didn't see, I only saw Yuna, and I didn't see Sildra or anything, so I just play the Yuna pass and not having much else to do. And so he goes and he Sildras, and I'm like, uh-oh, like he's off to a way better start. And so he does his thing, sets up a couple backups, does the whole, summoner thing, puts Sildra back in hand. Nothing I could do about that, obviously. And then I draw for turn, and I see Titus, and I'm just like, okay, well, the strategy was to get the 3 backups and then slam this and poke.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen. So we played Titus round 2, and then I think we had a blue worm or something. So cool, let's just play the blue worm. Let's dig a little deeper. So I played both of those, and that opened my eyes, just kind of in practice, to my strategy actually for like my last 3 matches of top, which was maybe we just win this by being extremely aggressive and like just mimicking 13.
Yeah.
Because I know as a mono water player, I want to set up my backups and have all my toys out and, then play everything for free basically. But I mean, Titus, however you say it, is really hard to get rid of for mono water because you have to target it.
Yeah.
You got to, give them 3. So, man, I played that entire game with 1 backup. I only had Una. Yeah. And I just put a ton of pressure on my opponent. And he hit a pretty early Leviathan. And I was like, surely I'm doomed here. I only had 2 cards on the board. And so he bounced, I think, like my Echidna and my Una. But I already had him at like 5 or 6. So I was able to kind of just next turn just play my Una back again and then like play an Alphino or something and just kind of start building my forwards again.
Yeah.
And I think I had the Cuchulain or the pseudo Amat Levy to cancel his Leviathan when he tried to play it again or something.
Yeah.
And the pressure just worked.
Nice.
I eventually got there because I drew my Lena. And so that turn I had the Cuchulain, so I Cuchulained his Leviathan. Played Lena, played Leviathan, wiped his board, and then just got in for the final points of damage.
Yeah.
And he was on 5 backups, so he had the dream start and everything. I just attribute it to literally just putting on the gas turn 2.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the plan. I played that game and I was like, wow, that worked. So it gave me something to think about for day 2.
Yeah. Titus, pretty good card, right? Well, and really in that matchup, of course, if someone's running like a Tomos or Famfrit, but not a whole lot of people are running that. So pretty much the only like clean way to deal with him is to hit an EX burst that gets him off the field before they can respond to it. Otherwise, yeah, great pressure card. So you went 6-1. Damn, a hell of a record there, sir.
Yeah, I was happy. I was happy to just do well and feel good going into day 2. I got the 5th seed, which would have mattered later if I had gotten out, in a certain round and the invites passing down.
Yeah.
I guess, as far as I know, they passed down the highest seed based on the round you got out in.
Swiss, yeah, I think I heard that too. I don't know 100%.
It's complicated. I don't know exactly how it works, but I just I was like, well, 5th seed sounds like a good chance.
Let the lawyers
to get this.
Figure that out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're right there.
The other 4, I think, it was like McGinty, Tool, like KP, like they already have all their invites. Yeah. So it's just like, well, yeah, I mean, if these guys do well, I should get my invite, you know? So everything that reduced the pressure was nice.
Which is great. So moving on to day 2, you're feeling pretty good about this invite. You're moving to best of 3 now, which is great in case you have one of those crummy draws. You get a little leeway. What did you face in top 32?
Yeah, my first round was against Statler's brother. So it's funny because we all were in the same Airbnb chilling the night before, and he was playing the match against Berkeley, was kind of helping him practice, and it was funny. We knew we were going to play each other, right? But I was just kind of sitting there, kind of observing. He was getting some reps in, and it wasn't as favored, I guess, as I thought it would be, because everybody just says, Ice Lightning is super unfavored into water, which it is unfavored, to be fair. But he was playing it really well the night before, and I don't think Berkeley playing water won every game, or he may have, but it was really close. It got scary. So with that in mind, I was just kind of like, I wasn't feeling amazing about it. I was like, this, let's play our game. But we played against Ice Lightning. He put on the pressure early, as he should, and I think got me pretty damn close to dying. I think I was on 6 or something. But sure enough, old reliable Lena Leviathan comes in to save the day. You just have to live long enough, right? You just gotta live long enough to get there, because they don't have that break zone removal other than the X Death. And if you just beat out the X Death or see your stuff before he comes down, or just rebuild, you've got a lot of summons in break zone, so
that deck Ice Lightning doesn't have any way to regain its resources. It's just drawn 2 for turn, whereas again with water you can just draw to your heart's content. So you can definitely as long as it doesn't kill you, you can out resource it for sure. Yeah. So no, he played a clean match. Game 2 didn't really go his way. He did what he was supposed to. I think he went full aggro, and you had a couple forwards out by turn 2, but his first damage was a 6 CP Lev on my side, so I was like, I'm going to bounce.
Bounce that lightning that just came down,
Right.
and I also happened to have pitched like one of my only like 16 water forwards, so I was able to plus get my forward back. So I was just back breaking for him.
Yep.
Even then, you know, he pressured pretty hard. I think got me to about 4 or 5, but that I think that Leviathan just immediately made it really hard. You know, committing 4 resources to, you know, play the lightning and then having to play her again. Was really tough, but no, he played a clean game, and he doesn't go to a lot of tournaments. He told me, and I mean, he did damn well for only going to a couple here and there.
Nice.
I'm sure his brother teaches him well, and Statler's a great player too. So
2-0 in that round sounds pretty clean. Again, good matchup for you. What did you take on in the top 16? Heading towards those quarterfinals, but not quite there yet. I guess these would be the
it takes forever in top 32,
right? The Ocho finals. I don't know what you'd call these ones.
God, yeah. I played against. I had actually seen the bracket before, and I knew that I'd either be playing a Mirror or Earth Lightning Chaos again. And I mean, I had already played it earlier in the day, so I wasn't like, oh my God, this is great. But I was like, hey, I kind of hope the Chaos Arc wins because I'd rather play that than the Mirror, you know, because I'm a little favored. And oh man, I ended up losing game 1 like tragically. I was down to. I think 0 or 2 cards in deck, but I had lethal. I think the following turn, and he had basically milled me out because he just kept depriving me of everything on the board with Chaos Arc stuff and you know Rebel and their typical stuff. I think Rebel. I hit a Coup Sith on his 6th damage or 5th damage. I don't remember, but I had lethal coming, and he had a Sonon engrave.
Oh no!
And yeah, and I was like, oh my God. And I and I think I was going for lethal that turn actually. So I was like, surely this is fine because I had that hit had put him to 6.
Yeah.
And I still had another forward to attack with. And I had a Leviathan in hand, the Opus 1.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, it's fine. He got Sonon back. He's gonna play it. If those 2 cards in his hand, he only had 2 cards in hand. If those 2 are an Earth and a Lightning, fine, we'll accept it. He plays it. I bounce it. I still win.
Right.
So sure enough, I swing in with my second forward, I think, which is just like Elena. He plays a Sonon. I'm like, okay, before blocks, let's bounce it. And then he's like, okay, sure. I'm gonna get rid of my 2 backups and play it again. And I was just like, oh, that's right, you can do that. And so, I mean,
the old alternate cost sneaks. Yeah, everyone. It so rarely comes up. To be fair, very rarely do you do that. But that is the play, right? Is if you're gonna die, you throw those backups away, and here comes Sonon.
It got me so hard, and I can't say. I mean, I didn't have another line there. I had 0 cards left in deck, so I have to swing no matter, even if he has it. But I will admit, I didn't remember. I just thought I won there. I was just like, okay, sure, you got it back, but let's bounce it. And then so when I lost, you know, obviously the deck out next turn, I was just looking around like, really? Did I just lose to, you know, a damage 6 Coup Sith off of something I didn't expect more than anything? Because it wasn't like, you know, Odin gets flipped over, bang, you know, my other forward dies. I was just like, oh, it's a Coup Sith. What could he possibly get back that's going to save him from literal lethal this turn?
Yeah.
When I even have a Leviathan in hand. But, I mean, I think his name was Sydney, and he played it very well. I mean, he piloted that deck very well. He was a really friendly guy. I was in the zone, so I was much more serious. But he was joking around, and I appreciate that. He's a nice player. Game 2, I thought I was done, and I was losing. I was 100% losing that game, and I busted my ass that game to win because I was able to win with a few cards left in deck. I think 2 left in deck or something.
Wow!
When we squeaked it in. And I was just like, oh, there's no way. Like, I actually got there.
Yeah.
And so right when that was happening, my buddies were like, hey, I think you're qualified anyway because everybody had won and stuff that was qualified. So even though I was already just top 16, they were like, you're the highest seed. So I think you're good. So I think that took some edge off again.
Sure. Yeah,
and
that's huge.
I was like, well, I'm free rolling now, right? So we go to game 3, and it's on time rules. And I haven't played time rules in Top Cut for a while. And so I had to ask the judge exactly how it worked. And we had 4 minutes going in, and so
I'll establish for everyone because this will come up later. And correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially, so in Top Cut, Once it goes to time, each player essentially gets 2 turns. Whatever player is currently the active player, that'll be turn 0. And then, so let's say they're player A, and then it'll go player B gets turn 1, player A gets turn 2, player B gets turn 3. So essentially, they both have 2 turns left to play it out. Then, if no winner has been declared at that point, the loser of the match will be whoever has taken the most damage. However, if there's still a tie, let's say you both have taken 2 damage, then it becomes sudden death, and the next person to take a point of damage loses. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right.
Spin it for me, brother.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you got to play by the rules of the game, and I know a lot of people aren't happy about the time rules. I won both the games I went to time, so great. I mean, in a way, I guess it worked out for me, but it's not, I don't love it. You know, I've always said, why don't we have 90 minutes for, if one game takes 30, you know, it doesn't seem like that huge of a sacrifice to add an extra 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And as decks get more complex and there's more things to play, I mean, I think that rule shouldn't be stuck in stone. I mean, why not update it? You know, we're updating the game.
Yeah, I said that with my video with Ghoul a while back, and granted, I've kind of always been in favor of time rule changes. Even years ago, you can find videos of me talking about that, but we specifically said that point is like, you know, the game's a lot more complicated now in Opus 19 going on Opus 20 than it was back in Opus 1 when they were first set up. Maybe back then, 70 minutes made more sense because the games didn't go as, but they can be grindy now. They can be back and forth, so... Yeah, I've always been in favor of the mathematically, hey, if it's 30 minutes per round, shouldn't it be 90 minutes for 3 rounds? But
yeah, I mean, you've got shuffling in between too. It's like the opposite of what it should be. Instead of like, not that I'm asking for more than 90, because I know, you know, people got to go home and, you know, I get it. But like, if anything, it should be over 90, not under 90, you know, because you're adding things in between the game. You're reshuffling, you're, you know, putting your cards back together, even if that's just a minute. Like, I mean,
it takes time.
Yeah, why are we losing 20 minutes instead of gaining 5 or something?
Well, and for me, I'll just comment on this too. Even at like locals, if I was ever doing a best of 3 or whatever, normally I would pile shuffle all my cards to just try to really mix them up, especially after I've just played a game. Because if I scoop them up together,
everything's together.
All my forwards and all my backups are together. But there's sometimes this fear, like, well, I don't have time to do that because I've got to beat this clock. So, yeah, I don't like that feeling. I want to be able to know, let me really get them good and shuffled and mixed up. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, especially with a deck like mine, it's got, you know, 3 cards I really want to see. They're probably all together in the break zone.
Right.
You know, if I've had my characters removed, you know, my soldiers are probably all stuck together.
Right.
My 8 whopping backups are probably, you know, together. 5 of them are together. It's just like, you need to shuffle well. Your shuffle game needs to be on point. So anyway.
So you knew this one was going to time. This is round 3. What happened?
Yeah. And you know, going to time, I knew I was favored into this particular matchup because he's Earth Lightning, right? And to my recollection, he doesn't have haste. And he's a control deck, right? So he doesn't play a ton of forwards just like I don't. But I have monsters. And I have Titus. So I actually hard mulliganed into a hand for Titus. I neglected the Sildra, or not the Sildra because I would have just searched the Titus, but I neglected a hand with like a couple backups and a couple other nice cards because I was just like, well, I either need to see a Sildra here to search the Titus or some monsters to just get pressure on the board, or, you know, setting up a couple backups just isn't going to cut it here. So we just slammed Titus turn 1, like just, and it, you know, I had lost, so I had to go second. So my opponent went first, and then my turn 1, I just paid 4 for Titus, and then just played like a blue worm or something, and I just basically went to town and just started, you know, hitting, and there's just nothing he could do. You know, he's unblockable. He did end up, I think, drawing some kind of removal because he was doing damage to me too. I think he knew he's smart, so he put out a forward turn 1 as well. But I was just like, my 4 words are going to do more damage than your 4 word. I just kept playing. I think the Alphino came into play there too, because seeing it early is great. It's just like, it's a cheap body that cycles me probably into some monsters. And now I have a 7K and another 7K that, like, I mean, 7K isn't impossible to block, but if we're going by the rules, you have to do more damage to me than I do to you in the next 4 minutes, basically, because then we're going to go to time, and then it's just whoever had more damage. So those cards put in work. And he almost bailed himself out of, I think we were going to be at like 3-3, but I think I had a bounce spell or something, and then his next turn he was just like, well, I can't do any damage, so
Yeah.
so we got there. Yeah.
Well, congrats. So now you're qualified. You're going to the quarterfinals, top 8. Emmanuel's on top of the world right now. Who do you face in the? I know you're top 4 in your grand finals, of course, because I got to see those. But top 8 is still a mystery to me. So top 8, what did you play? Who'd you play?
Oh, I played Kyle McGinty.
Oh, okay. He was on like a Warrior of Light thing, right? Warrior Light Radio stuff.
He was in a Warrior Light deck that just absolutely stomps mono water. He's just got all the tech cards for it in there. He's got a lot of wind. He's got the Alexanders. And I mean, the ceiling of that deck is really high. I can't beat him in a long game. And we played a lot on like Octagon and stuff. So I'd seen his deck. He'd seen mine. It's just water, you know, so they're not really any different. But what I did adopt, and this is where it really came in clutch, was the strategy that I had just adopted going to time. The strategy that I adopted playing against water. In my head, I was like, I never win this matchup going for a long game, because it's just going to get outvalued. He's going to kill my monsters with Alexander. It's just not good.
Yeah.
So I literally at both games I opened with Titus, just overpaying for it, and playing a Una backup. That was my opener both games. And
that's so
game
sweet.
one,
Titus and Una coming out together to win.
I know, right? I didn't even think about it until now. It was my favorite game too. But no,
man, a good taste right here, folks.
I was terrified. Oh yeah, 10 is the go. I was outmatched by the deck, and I have a lot of respect for him as a player too. So I was kind of playing with house money, because I was like, I got my qual.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to win this matchup. This is like a 20-80, I think, maybe 30-70. Like, it's not as abysmal as like a Ice Earth or Wind Ice, but like still really bad. And plus the fact that he's been crafting the deck for a while and just plays it well. So game one, it was a long game, but we ended up getting there just because of the early pressure. Like I think I forced him to target my Titus 2 or 3 times. I mean, it was disgusting, because like, I mean, he's gone, but now I have 3 cards.
Right.
Like 3 cards is 3 cards.
That's huge.
And it's just,
that's a turn and a half. Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. So I think I was just able to surprisingly out advantage there just because of the, draws from Titus. MVP. 100%. But I do really think that playing the mirror earlier in day 1 and then playing that match right before, where I kind of put it in my head like, hey, we just need to put in damage. There's just no other route to victory here. Worked out. And again, so the second game I opened the same way, but he had a much better start. Game 1, he kind of bricked. He bricked on backups. He had to play a Tiro turn 1, I think, so it wasn't optimal for him. He got off to a little bit slower start, which is why the pressure got there without him being destabilized quickly enough. But game 2, he had a way better start, and it wasn't looking great for me. I was still able to put up a lot of pressure, but he was stabilizing quite well. And he had his usual, Fusoya Warrior Light stuff going, and then I was like, this isn't looking great. But on a very pivotal turn, I was behind, but I drew like 2 blue worms in a row, and then the blue worm drew into a Tros or something, or Echidna. I don't know, but I basically slammed like 4 monsters out in one turn, and I still had my Titus out, right? So that was going in no matter what, and I had him at about like 3 or 4 damage, and I think 3, and so it goes to his turn, and he bricks. He draws backups, and that was rough. I definitely I think he drew a Heck. He drew a Hecatoncheir 5, so he was able to kill the Titus. But I could see it in his face, like he didn't have a follow up to that.
Yeah.
And I had 4 monsters, so he was at 3.
Yeah.
And so barring an EX, that was it.
And even then, monsters are kind of immune to EX bursts. Like,
right?
What burst even could he hit that would hit the monster off the field? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I think the only thing I was scared of is him drawing something that drew him into like an Amaterasu to like Amaterasu the Tross, because I think it activates even if there's no target.
Yeah.
Or the Echidna. Yeah. That's the only thing that maybe could have saved him. I think he's on a pretty low EX burst count. But yeah, I got lucky in that one. I mean, he bricked.
It happens
at a pivotal time. Yeah. And I also got lucky to draw 3 monsters in a row, and they're cantrips, just 1, 2, 3. And so I was just surprised that I even got through that matchup, much less 2-0.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need a little bit of luck to go your way.
Sometimes, if you're a player like me, you need a lot of luck to go your way. So, but I really appreciate you saying that, Emmanuel, because I know there are some players who they don't ever want to use the word luck. They want it's all skill, but like I appreciate the like, no, luck is a part of it. Like yes, you can draw well, you can draw poorly, you can burst well, burst poorly, etc. So. Thank you for saying that.
No, it's cool. I just don't think you can ever complain about bad luck without admitting when it goes your way, right? I mean, I'm the first to be, a little bit salty when I get hit by an EX burst that just changes the game. So when I don't get hit by bursts or I just draw well, it's like, well, that went my way.
Yeah.
Other games don't.
It's cool.
So part of the game.
You are off to this. Well, this would be the semifinals now. You're taking on Kyle Peters. This is a mono water beer match. Funny enough, you weren't on stream originally, but Ryan Chen and Sam Toole finished relatively quickly, so they moved you guys over. So when you came over, you had already won game one. I don't know if you want to pick up right from what was on stream, or you want to go back and talk about game one. Talk about the semifinals.
Sure. I mean, first of all, it was KP. So I again didn't consider myself favored. One, because he had the higher seed, so it was kind of his pick.
Yeah.
Even though it's not as impactful in water, I guess, but still, he gets to go first. And I mean, he had just taken this deck to finals, and he's been playing. He's good at the deck, and this was my first tournament on it, and I played one mirror in the whole day. So I was, he's like, I played like 6 mirrors. I was like, oh shit, we're toast. But the first game, I think it was just a very good game. Just back and forth, typical stuff. I had to cancel cancel Levy at the right time to cancel his Leviathan.
Mm.
And then, you know how it goes. I cancel his. I was able to draw mine the next turn, with Lena. And I had the Kucha lane, I think, to blank his Leviathan. And it just, I was like, whoa, we got there.
Yeah.
But I also, it was funny is I also took the aggressive approach. I take this approach with water in the mirror, where I don't care if you're building backups and I'm not, because I know that I'll eventually get to them. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, maybe there's better mono water players, but this is what worked for me. So I think I should share it. In the mirror and in matches that seem unfavored,
mm-hmm.
the approach that I think worked was just put on early pressure, start poking, especially if you can draw Titus, because it's hard for them to kill. And just know that your backups will eventually come, because they have to eventually deal with the Titus. So like you might just get to draw 3, and then in one turn you could just build 3 backups. Yeah. And now you're just caught up, except that you're 3 points ahead because you've been focusing on just going in while they've been building their 5 backups. And that worked wonders, because I was, I think I had 1 backup for like 4 turns, and then eventually Titus got in enough that he had to deal with it. He had to target it, drew 3 cards, draw my Sildra. Okay, well, now here's the Geomancer. Now here's the Waka. Now here's this. Okay, I'm on 4 backups now. Like, you're on 5, but I'm happy with 4 because I'm 3-4 points ahead. So that's how I won that one. And just a good game. I don't think he did anything wrong. He played it well, too. And then we got on stream, and you guys all saw that one.
I think this was a weird opening. Like, I think, did he go like turn 1 Porum, and you also did? Like, neither of you, I remember, you didn't have like a Sildra backup start.
No. And I stuck to my strategy. I mean, I think even if I would have had backups, I would have gone with the aggro strat. But he adapted well, right? Because he saw that I did that last game. So, of course, what he did was play a Porum so that, if I played like a Ton barrier and Echidna or something, I think he can do stuff with the Porum to make sure it just feels bad for me, because I was playing monsters. I think by turn 2 or something I had like 3 monsters on the board, but I couldn't swing with any of them because he put a blocker out so the blue worms don't get in, and then he had the Porum, so like I think if I activated like my Echidna or my Tross or something, I don't remember what I had out, but like he would have just blanked it. And his Porum got big, if you guys if you remember he had it on like 8k, so but I was still getting in with Titus because,
Porum doesn't want to target Titus, which he eventually had to, but
he had to, and then we sent it to the bottom. And I'll skip through the meat of that one because you guys all saw it on stream, but I think there was some things that I could have done better on a certain turn. I think I could have pushed extra damage. I listened to the commentary, and I think you're right.
Yeah, I think you had a lethal at one point, like because of your monsters.
Yeah, and I just sometimes when those wide boards, man, it is what it is. They're wide, and you just don't want to die in the crackback. Yep. And sometimes you play a little too conservatively, and I was just like, well, I've got these counter spells in my hand. I should be able to outlive his crackback and then go in. And it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
I did have the cancel Amot for his Leviathan, like you guys saw. I saved it, but it wasn't enough. He just had more stuff, and he also had a lot of monsters. So I mean,
if I remember correctly too, I haven't watched it back yet. I think it was one of those that it would have been a lethal line, but it would require you to like go all in, like you would have had to dump your whole hand. So I could understand you maybe it's like, oh, but if I hit, this or whatever the circumstance, it's more nerve wracking. It's like, oh man, but I got to commit everything, and if it fails, then I'm really screwed.
There's always a concern about EX Burst in that deck, and he runs more than I do. I think he's on 19 or 20. I'm on like 16. So I saw the deck list. He also played Gadaj that game, by the way, which I think may have won him the game because I just being able to duel something is so good.
That I remember well, and it eats away at your break zone, and he had it for a long time. I remember saying that, and like me and my commentating partner Ghoul, he was just like, well, maybe he doesn't want to worry about the dark card, but then he Artemisians and he didn't put the Kadaj away. I was like, well, he's holding on to it, like he's clearly valuing this card, and 100%. I think the moment Kadaj came down, it's like, okay, now I have my uninteractable forward that can kind of do whatever I want. So I think that was a huge swing for him.
No, it was huge, and like we carry outs for it. Like I had a turn where I could have levy bounced it, but I also didn't want to lose 2 more cards in graveyard at that turn. Like if he replayed it, because I was getting pretty close to Lena numbers, and even though he hit my Leviathan, I was like, well, I can just draw another one or draw a Sildra to draw line another one and still do Lena. So I think I didn't want to bounce it. And then the next turn, I drew the Lena and I just played it to protect my break zone. So he resorted to, I think he gave the Tross Brave or something.
Oh yeah, because we were all like, does that work? Does the Tross keep that?
I had to ask the judge. To be honest, I still don't know exactly how it worked. I just knew it had Brave. I don't know if he had the 2K plus or not, and I don't think it mattered because I don't think I could have blocked it. But I'll have to talk to him about that. It was pretty cool. Yeah. So, Kadaj is a good card. It was on my short list, but just didn't make it for me. And I think that and obviously skilled play won him that game.
Yeah. So going into round 3, similar to what it sounds like what your top 16 was, is that you guys. I don't think our timer on stream was quite accurate because
it wasn't accurate because the swap. Yeah.
But you didn't have much time. We knew that. We knew you maybe had a few minutes before you hit turns. You knew what the turn rules are. Here comes aggro, Emmanuel.
Yeah. Here comes pseudo 13. Right, like. I think we asked for time going into the last round. We had like 3 minutes and 50 seconds or something. So I still went through my first turn as fast as I could so I can give him a turn and, get another turn or whatever. But I think I drew a hand that was usually really bad, but I had Titus in it. Yeah. So I kept it. And I was going first because it ended up working out for me because he was the first seed. He went first game 1.
But you won
and then I lost, but I won that one, yeah. So because I won that one and then I lost game 2, I actually got to go first in game 3, which worked extremely to my favor.
That was huge.
Because I put out my pressure first. And so it didn't matter that we had 3 minutes. I knew we were going to play a normal game. So I still went with a full aggro plan. And then when time hit, like it was like my turn 3 or something, I was like, hey, how much time is left? Let me make sure I can get one more play off. They were like, you have 5 seconds. I was like, I think in the camera, I just put my cards down. I was like, all right, KP, well, I'm just going to think this one over because we're in time. Like, it's just not going to matter now. So let's just take our time here. And so, I thought out my turn and stuff. And I remember you guys seeing my hands. It got, oh man, it was an intense game because my whole game plan changed when I drew into a Sildra. When I had that standoff, because I had it just bounced my Yuna and something else, or just a Yuna actually, and I had 3 Opus 1 Levy bouncers in hand. So if he hadn't bounced the Yuna, I just hold that hand and win because I was ahead by like 2 points, and I would have had like I think 5 cards in hand. So even just being able to play 2 of those, at reduced cost, and then my third Leviathan was going to go into activating the Echidna. So I was like, I have 2 bounces and a block. There's no way he wins here. Yeah. And then he bounced the Yuna. And I was like, oh, well, now I can only play 1 because I have to cast the Yuna. Yeah. And I was like, shit, that's going to be rough.
I remember commenting on that, being like, oh, but he's got to replay Yuna. He's not going to have enough to like.
Yeah. It changed the numbers a lot. And so one thing that I did that we talked about it on camera, but of course the sound was off. I was so deep into the day on an hour of sleep throughout combined for the whole weekend. I never realized that he never played a Una. So the reason when I drew the Sildra, the reason I even tanked before going for what some would consider an all-in Leviathan play was because in my head he had 2 cards. I was like, one of those can be a cancel levy, and that might be bad for me.
Yeah,
because he had 2 cards in hand.
Right.
But I never registered that he didn't have a Una out
there.
He was unable to cast anything unless it was like a 2-cost like Poo-Poo or something. Yeah. It didn't matter what it was. Or Kuchulain. Kuchulain would have still been bad, and I think he actually had the Kuchulain.
He did at one point, yeah. He Kuchulained your Leviathan.
But to be completely honest, in my head, he had cancel levy in hand.
Yeah.
And that's why I tanked so long. I was like, do I go for the defensive play and just, hold on to my lead? Or do I, try to bounce his board and establish bodies? And of course that is the right play, right? Yeah. So we ended up, that blue worm drew me into the Sildra, so I didn't have it going into the turn. And that changed everything. Yeah. We Sildra, Lena Leviathan, and then it, how it goes from there. And I think he was forced to block my Echidna attack. So
he was, yeah.
Yeah, because then he would have gone to 5 and just put it out of reach. The deck doesn't have haste.
Yep.
But yeah, I talked to him. I felt bad because it might have looked like a slow roll. It was not my intention. I told him I was just too stupid to realize he didn't have a Una. So yeah,
honestly, it was. Yeah. I have to. Whatever you think about the time rules, it was actually an interesting moment. And as a commentator, I had to commentate it differently because I'm no longer looking at how do we win a long game and get to 7. I'm looking at what do you do in these 2 turns? These 2 turns. Yeah. And so it kind of was intense, for that moment. And
it was a super intense game. I obviously I won, so I can say I enjoyed it, but I like kind of being under new new constraints, having to play the match completely differently.
Yeah, it makes it interesting.
But also, if I'm on the other side of it, I probably hate it.
Of course.
It's hard.
It's one of those things. It's great if you're benefiting from it, but it sucks when you're on the receiving end of it.
Yeah, and I, regardless of that, I'm still on 90-minute team. So hopefully they make that change sooner than later.
So speaking of being on the receiving end, you're going into the grand finals. Congratulations. You can only do one more thing better than this, which is win this match, but you're in this final match. However, you're going against Icewind. And in the chat, we did a prediction, and I said in commentary too, I was historically, Water has really struggled with Wind. Wind essentially just puts it over its knee and just spanks it out of existence. So, and clearly it showed in your play. Did you ever have any intention of trying to play this out, or were you like, well, it's one thing or nothing?
No, I knew better. And again, just the experience I had all day with going with the aggro plan. I was like, if I have any chance to win this game, it's this way. And so I joked around with Sam. We were having a good time. I knew I was like a 5% chance to win that matchup. And I actually opened well enough for what my plan was. I opened I saw 2 blue worms, I think right off the rip.
Yeah.
And I saw the Titus. I put him to 6. I was just super proud to make him sweat because I was he was on 6. I was starting lethal. And there was a point where if he didn't draw the right color card, he bricks and I just win.
Yeah.
And so I committed to it. And it's funny, I think Rice and Kelly were sitting on the other side of the table and I think Chris Neal or something. And after game 1, because I when I played those blue worms, I'd shot them off immediately as soon as I could because I know he runs Alexander and he runs Law.
Yeah, which
so
was
I was
fantastic.
These are just gonna die. Yeah, so I was joking with him. I was like, the stream's probably gonna roast me for this. What is he doing? But these get no value if they sit out here.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go in.
My partner Ghoul mentioned that. He was like, this is great because otherwise you're just opening them up to get Alexanders and then cantrip later. So that was such a great decision on your part.
Yeah. So we committed to it, and I was just dying because I think Rice or Neil was just dude, you're just shooting a blue worm chain gun, man. You were just shooting those poor guys out, and I was like, oh no, they're just baby dragons. What are we doing here?
That's what they're there for.
Yeah. And so they put in work, man. They did their best. And you saw game 2 as well. Same strategy. I didn't get to put him to 6 that time because he just opened better. Storm.
Yeah, he Luso'd you on turn 2, so that was. I mean, I kind of figured he'd do it eventually, but I was like, turn 2, oh my god! He started that turn with a Moogle backup, and by the end of it, had wiped your board and had all manner of stuff.
Insane. I mean, I got nothing but good things to say about him as a person and a player. So it's not even, a question of would it have been a hard matchup if he wasn't on that. It would have still been an incredibly hard matchup just because of the caliber of player he is. But going against Storm, I mean, if I have, a 10% chance to win that matchup against a normal player, I have like a 5% chance against him. And I had forgotten, to be honest. Everybody knows my dislike for win cards. I'm one of the biggest win haters.
My hero.
So I've just enjoyed, although I don't necessarily enjoy queuing up against 13, I do like that it's been keeping wind in check a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of people have.
Yeah, so to be honest, I didn't remember how quickly he could storm. So I really thought I had a legit chance to win, especially game 1. Because I was like, oh, yeah, maybe he just doesn't get his pieces quickly enough, and he's got to just, stall. Or
you made us believe.
So, but he got there. I mean, the deck's insane. If it goes unchecked, it's just, I think, absolutely tier 1.
Oh yeah, if there's nothing will beat it in a late game, and in this case, your late game was turn 2.
Well, exactly, and again, that's why I couldn't play a normal game. I saw Soldier, I think, and I just didn't even bother. I was just like, I don't have time. I can't do it. But yeah, all in all, I mean, great player, and I'm really glad if it was anyone that beat me in the finals, it was him. And we had just fun in the last matchup. I knew I was extremely unfavored. And
I was gonna say nothing. I even said this on stream, and I'll reiterate it to you because I truly meant it. And that I think you did everything you possibly could. I loved the machine gunning of the monsters. Like, nope, they just got to go in and we got to be done. Hit Tidus as fast as you can. You tried what you could, and it just wasn't enough to get there. And you know what's funny is I didn't know you were sleep deprived, but I know at one point I said on stream, because you were just kind of sitting there like this, while he's doing 1,000 actions in the turn, and I said someone should just get Emmanuel a pillow, like let him take a little snooze, and I didn't realize you'd been sleep deprived. Yeah, that would be amazing. Like, go ahead, do your solitaire. I'm gonna just sit here and take a nap for 10 minutes.
Funny enough, sidebar, I actually took 3 naps that day in between rounds.
Oh, really?
Kelly, bless his heart, had a rental car, so pretty roomy one. So I asked him for the keys, like, in between each round that I got done early and then, like, after lunch break. And I was like, I just need a few. Yeah. So I'd go to the car. I would just roll up the windows. It was tinted, and I would just lay in the back, and I just power nap for, like, 20 minutes,
nice.
2 or 3 times. And it worked, I guess. It just did well, but by the end of the day, I was delirious. I was just kind of like staring off into space. Maybe that's the strat. Maybe I don't sleep again next time.
Right?
We'll see how it goes.
The old no sleep strat.
we're catching up on it now, so it's okay. We're still here in Dallas having a good time.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, sir, again, a hearty congratulations to you for making second place at the Materia Cup. That's so cool. You've got your Nats invite. So I know you're gonna kick butt there. Just great. And thank you for the recap and for all that. I mean, we went through the whole tournament. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about the day before we wrap up here? Or?
No, nothing about the day. I mean, great weekend with great people. They know who they are. So I had a lot of fun. I love these trips because you get to double dip. You get to play cards, and you also get to hang with the homies. Why not?
I tried to. Go ahead. As I say, I try to never show bias, but I'm always rooting for you in my heart because
I appreciate it, man.
Of course. I've always, I said, maybe one of these days I'll beat you on. I feel like every time we play on RVA, you just like stomp me. You're just like.
You got me once. You got me once or twice. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm not. I was like, I feel like you always crush me.
On an Ice Lightning, it was just too fast for my little Leo decks.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
No, man, don't worry. You're doing well. I think you won last season, right? So
I did, yeah.
So
as long as I avoided you.
That's good, man. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, and a bigger congratulations to you for the Materia Cup, for Nationals. We're wrapping up here. Emmanuel, I know there's some people you wanted to give a shout out and mention to. Floor is yours, sir.
Yeah. So there's one person I got to mention right off the bat because I just I don't perform like this if it wasn't for him. I mean, he knows it, and this is not me, shooting praise for no reason. We all love him, Oki. I call him Coach. A lot of people call him Coach. I spoke with him after San Diego. We talk a lot, but I spoke with him after San Diego, and I was just like, Listen, you know me. I'm prideful. I like to build my own decks. I don't like to play the meta. It's a problem because if they don't go together. You know, you either do really well and play good decks, or you're, you know, sometimes it lines up that you brew something so good that you do well with it. But
Yeah.
it's hard. It's really hard. I mean, it's hard to cook. Not everybody's a cook, you know, and I try to be, but it's just sometimes it's just not the right meta for it. So anyway, he did well with that deck. We talked several times in the last 2 weeks before the event. Went as far as recording my gameplay and having him review it, and it was fun. There was our first review session was just I came out of there like scorched because I got roasted so much by him and Pat in good spirit.
Yeah.
Pat, my local, also a great guy, and I was just playing the deck so abysmally wrong after listening to watching the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because like in the gameplay, like I'd hover over the right card, like the right play. He's like, oh, surely you're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And then like I switch and like I do like the absolutely wrong play. It's like, what are you doing? And so I had a lot of fun, and it was I took all the advice. I just sponged it in. We talked again before the tournament, kind of made a game plan against each matchup, kind of checked in with him after every round. And also just a very positive dude, that because I have a tendency to kind of get down on myself after I lose a round and stuff. So I won't, keep going on that stuff. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows he's good. But that was a shout out that I had to give because I owe a lot to that, to kind of coaching and letting my pride down and just saying, hey, I need some help.
Yeah.
To do better. I think more people should do that. Starting with me, I do that. And then, of course, massive shout out to Greg Cole and the Light for always supporting us, sponsoring us, just being an overall great person, great human being. Can't wait to see him and everybody else that's coming down to Arizona in a couple of weeks for the local qualifier. And then, finally, everybody, I'm not going to go through names because there's so many of them, but everybody that I talk to on a regular basis, that I'm in groups with online, that plays with me on Octagon, and of course my locals, especially Pat and Rainey, who have been there since the beginning and have kept the community alive. It's a hard thing to do when we don't get a lot of people showing up, and we've gotten some new people in, like one of my good friends, Adam, but in order to get new people in, we have to have the OGs there. Rigo, Pat, Rainey. We miss Cassie and Larry, so if they see this, we miss you guys. Can't wait to have you back. Hopefully they get back to Arizona one day. But yeah, just a lot of love for a lot of good people. Don't want to miss anybody, but they know who they are. And I love it as part of this game. It's the reason I came back from Fab to play FF again, and it's the community.
You were very sincere, sir. Very heartfelt. Appreciated. Well, folks, I guess that's what we're wrapping up here today. So I want to give a big thank you to Emmanuel for joining me today, spending his time recapping the tournament, reliving his glory, his triumphs, and maybe a couple of his tragedies. But yeah, you absolutely crushed it, sir. And I can't wait to see you at Nationals and get to see what you can do in the future.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate this interview, and keep doing what you do. Awesome. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you at the next event.
Absolutely. Folks, leave any questions, comments you got in the description below. Any questions you want to ask for Emmanuel, we'll get the questions over to him. And until next time, take care.